As much as cybercrime is on the rise, when it comes to carrying cash, two types of crimes still remain prevalent. Victims being followed out of a bank branch after a cash withdrawal has been made, which comprises most cases, and then incidences where they are followed after withdrawing money at an ATM. SABRIC CEO Kalyani Pillay is here to discuss the dangers of cash robberies and how exactly we should carry cash safely. Kalyani, welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much.
What would a typical scenario be for what we're talking about, these types of, robberies where people are carrying cash after withdrawing it?
Sure. So what happens is that when people withdraw monies from a bank, either from inside the bank branch and they're leaving the bank, or alternatively when they're drawing monies at an ATM, it could also be the other way around, but I think today we just talk about these particular kinds of crimes where people get robbed. So what happens is that the criminals actually know that the person's going to have money when they're coming out of the bank branch. And what happens is that most often the criminal actually goes into the bank branch.
Oh, wow.
They're part of a syndicate. So they go in and they watch to see who's withdrawing monies at a particular bank branch queue, or they need to know that this particular person is coming out. They call their person on the outside and say, look, so-and-so is coming out, and that's the person who you need to follow. So it's about that kind of thing. Unfortunately, criminals always seem to think, or the police also seem to think, that maybe it's bank staff that are actually doing this, but it really isn't so.
Yeah.
It's really about the criminals having members that are part of the syndicate that go in and follow. And so what happens is that most often they follow the person either home, they have a vehicle waiting that follows them home, or to their place of business. And of course, there are instances where it happens outside, but most often it happens when they're away from the bank branch. Yeah.
I've also heard really terrible stories of how, when small businesses are going to bank large amounts of money.
Yes.
I wanted to know, how do criminals target and identify their victims?
So what happens is that by then they already have sufficient information about a particular person. So they know that businesses who don't have companies that actually do management of their cash, that don't come in and collect monies and do the deposits at the bank or take it through to a particular cash center, they know that in those instances, those particular businesses need to go in and they actually do the deposits themselves. So they find out either from people in the business, maybe somebody's a part of it, maybe not, but there's other information that they acquire. They get enough information to know which bank a person is going to go to, and that's why we say to businesses all the time, don't use the same branch. Use a different branch. Don't go to the same branch all the time. It's really important not to create that kind of surveillance that it's easy for people to determine where you're going to and how you're actually going to be doing your deposits.
How does one avoid falling victim to these scams?
We say to businesses all the time, especially those that are starting to pick up and where you'll be seeing bigger amounts of money and you need to go to the bank very often. We say to those companies, rather use a cash management system. It's always better to use a cash management system. But if you can't go and you can't do that and you need to still go yourself, well, for one, don't tell many people in the company that you're actually going on a particular day. Don't go on the same day of the week. Don't go every day at 9 o'clock in the morning that somebody's going to the bank all the time. Have different days, go to different branches, but really nobody else should be knowing. This is information you keep to yourself, really. It's not about going, but also about stockfells. It's also about stockfells because stockfells also are people who receive monies from the people that are our club members and who pay it over to them, and they take it and they go across to the bank and they deposit it either on the first Monday after the month end. So those are kind of days that we say to people, please, in fact, you don't even need to do that. If you speak to your bank and tell your bank, this is the kind of stockfell that you have, this is the kind of savings account that you have, and people can actually then just do debit orders straight into that account. You don't need to touch that money.
Oh, wow. Let me tell you, the only time you should not be consistent is consistently going to the same place to deposit money. I love that. Keep it changing so that people never see a pattern and can thus follow that pattern. Oh, Kalyani, thank you so much. You are amazing. Now, from cash robberies to card fraud, join us again next week where SABRIC CEO Kalyani Pillay discusses card fraud, something that I'm sure we're all very aware of. We find how these criminals operate and how we can avoid being a victim.
We are brave, innovative, everywhere. We are SABRIC.